The Arizona Coyotes were able to come back from a 2-0 deficit, but penalties once again prove costly as Arizona takes a 3-2 loss to the Calgary Flames. We're going to talk about this one, break it down, what happened on this episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast.
You're Locked On Coyotes, your daily podcast on the Arizona Coyotes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to the show, everybody. I'm Robyn Leonio. That's Carl Pavlock right beside me on today's episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. I want to thank everyone for making this show your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms, including on YouTube. And of course, for our local listeners, you can find us on the KPNX 12 News app. We got a great show for you guys in today's episode. We're breaking down Arizona's 3-2 loss to the Calgary Flames in Calgary as they look competent again, Carl. They look competitive, but penalties once again just bite them in the butt.
For a hot minute, it looked like you were going to be right and they were going to lose 4-2, which is much closer than my prediction of 6-2. So,
I actually
yeah.
4-3, but
Then you were yeah, it was not a good game for the Coyotes. But there was some bright spots. Like, I thought they started strong, but they quickly gave that up late in the first period. Penalties again. 2 power play goals. Just can't have that.
Yeah, and you think of some of the ways it went down. I mean, yeah, you can we can go ahead and highlight the two goal scorers for Arizona, but before we even get to that, we're going to talk about those penalties too, because Arizona was putting a pretty good effort to end the game. They getting close to end the game, but then the Jacob Chicken tripping call really proved costly, because that's what ended up being. But let's be fair. I mean, I don't know what you think, Carl. That call to me was just like, okay, come on. That's why call that?
Well, to me, that was the third maybe penalty on the Coyotes in the span of a minute. Like, they were trying a lot. They were getting pretty loose. I could see if this was the only thing that the Coyotes had done in the final 5 minutes of a game, they would let it slide. But it was definitely, to me, it felt like a cumulative penalty. Like, they're like, hey, you guys have done so much. Why are you pushing the limit like this? And so you're going to take that call.
Even this one, though, like it looked like just kind of like a intermittent, like, hey, it wasn't supposed, like, yeah, I mean, like, you should know where your stick is going, but like it kind of
the rules technically require you to know where your stick is at all times.
Yes, but it's also just like, a dumb luck. It just gets caught in between the legs.
Yeah. Like I said, and if that was the only thing the Coyotes had done, like in the past 2 to 1 minute of that third period, I'm sure they would have let it slide. But there was a number of instances leading up where you're like, you can kind of feel it go either way. The fans in Calgary certainly were not happy with how the game was being officiated. Could that have swung the referees' perceptions? Maybe. We've seen it before. But I really was not going to give the Coyotes any sympathy for that check-in call. Like, it should not come down to a tripping call late in the game.
No,
Let's just say that.
It shouldn't. and especially when you have someone like Chychrun having to sit out. Chychrun himself, how upset he was it was visible on the TV broadcast. That's for sure.
Yeah. He like stayed in the box right away. Like he didn't get up and go. He was just like,
And he had that just like that face, just like, screw this, I'm done.
yeah. Which I mean, it's a tough goal to give up. Like I know I was deflated watching it from home. I can only imagine how deflated Chychrun is from the penalty box.
Yeah, and especially too, let's remember this, that the Coyotes had come back from a 2-0 deficit, right? They looked pretty good to tie it up, but
Yeah.
it just gets to this point every freaking time. I mean, I'll say this, Kyle. I don't know about you, but I would definitely prefer, seeing the having the Coyotes lose in this way in a competitive manner, but like even though those simple mistakes still kind of cost them, than the losing team of last year that just looked bad.
Sure. Those are I mean, it feels almost like two opposite sides of like they're polar opposites. How the team is playing now versus how they were playing then, and I'm not really sure which one I prefer. Like last season, it was disheartening, but I didn't have hope. Like I have hope sometimes watching these games, and so often the hope just is like that was a bad call.
I mean, I think that's part that's comes with the territory of being a hockey fan, though, right? Is like you want to be able to feel those glimmers of hope. You want to be able to feel the torch of a win being taken away from you. I mean, obviously, you don't want to feel that. You want to feel a win, but like
Yeah,
the feeling, that torture feeling, is just like it's part of being a sports fan. Let's be real.
yeah, definitely. It is an aspect of like anyone watching sports knows the agony of defeat, and you want to be competitive. You want to be in games. You don't want to just be expecting to lose everything. I wish the Coyotes didn't take so many penalties. That's the thing. Like the way the team is losing now is different than the way they were losing last season. Like you said, they're more competitive. I will agree with that, but they're also more likely to shoot themselves in the foot.
Yes. And I mean, let's also be real with this, that a lot of that kind of goes with a lot of the players on this team are still really young,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you still have some veterans on there, but a lot of this team is younger than 25. So, like, I mean, that's still not giving them a free pass, but it's like, okay, they still have some things to work on.
Yeah. And it's good that they're working on that now in the season where it doesn't matter.
Exactly. Yeah, that's absolutely the truth. Well, we're gonna keep breaking this one down, though, as on this episode of Locked On Coyotes. Arizona falls to the Calgary Flames. 3-2 is the final score. We're gonna talk more about how we thought this game went, and highlight some of the things as well on this episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. I do want to let everyone know, though, but today's episode is brought to you by SimpliSafe at Locked On Coyotes. We believe that home should be where you and your family feel safest, especially over the holidays. This season, give yourself and your family the gift of peace and protection with the #1 rated home security system, SimpliSafe. And right now, SimpliSafe is offering Locked On Coyotes listeners 40% off a new security system. But don't put this off, because SimpliSafe was named the best home security system of 2022 by U.S. News and World Report. In an emergency, 24/7 professional monitoring agents use Fast Protect technology exclusively from SimpliSafe to capture critical evidence to verify if a threat is real. So you get the higher priority police response. With the top-rated SimpliSafe app, stay in complete control of your system, arm or disarm, unlock for a guest, access your cameras, or adjust system settings anytime, anywhere. And big on my favorite security system. Get 40% off any new system at simplisafe.com/lockedonnhl today. That's simplisafe.com/lockedonnhl. There is no safe like SimpliSafe. Let's now move forward on this game, though, and talk about, some of the good things that we saw. And of course, we mentioned that they came back from a 2-0 deficit, 2 goal scores. And let's highlight that first one, Carl. A player that you mentioned would be as a player to watch out for in Nick Bjugstad continues to look good out there.
Actually, Shane Gostisbehere got that goal.
Did he?
Yeah. Initially, it looked like it may have gone off Bjugstad's stick. Shane Gostisbehere is currently listed as having the goal on it. Goal and an assist for Ghost. I cannot say like I'm disappointed with Bjugstad like being in that position like as a screen right in front of the goaltender, but yeah, it was a night of defensive goals because Chikrin got the other.
Yeah, because Chikrin got the other one. Yeah, he did got that penalty, but hey, he still got a goal, right?
Yeah.
I mean that tells you something. Made the game interesting. But yeah, definitely need to check my stats, my own personal stat page, because that should be updated on my side. But yes, you are.
Well, let's see, because we are recording it right after. Let me refresh my page. Maybe it's changed from the NHL website. Still list Ghost. I watched that replay and I was like, is that Bjugstad? So it wouldn't surprise me if someone like doing stats like had him as getting the goal, but NHL.
I think a lot of us saw Nick Bjugstad make a touch on that, so there's a chance it can get updated. But okay, so as of now, it is actually credited to Shane Gostisbehere. But still, not to discredit Bjugstad's presence on the ice, because he still looked good out there. So
I mean, that goal probably doesn't happen if the Calgary goaltender gets a clean look at Gostisbehere. So either he gets the tip in or he gets like an unofficial assist for being the screen.
Right. Yeah. Totally. That's definitely one thing. But I think it's nice to see Gostisbehere get the goal, because obviously we talked about how Gostisbehere's improved. Like, the 2 players that scored are 2 players that could potentially, one of them is definitely, is very likely, I wouldn't say definitely, but very likely, on their way to be traded from the Arizona Coyotes. But, it's a matter of when, not if, and to who and where. And the other is, potentially working up on their trade value for trade at the trade deadline. So,
yeah, definitely. And the other 2 players who assisted on those goals, Matthias Michelli, Clayton Keller, they are the future of the team.
They are the future core, right? You gotta love the core. Like, I'm not sure if I would classify Michelli as core, but he still is future of the team.
I mean, he and Keller are currently tied with 15 assists.
Yes, but the core is, in my mind, right now, the 3 forwards of, plus a little bit more, would be Keller, Schmaltz, Kraus. Gunther can work himself up towards core. I think he's still future, though, but like a future star. But I think he will eventually be classified as core as well.
I would agree with you on Keller and Kraus. I'm not sure about Schmaltz. Even though I have liked what he has brought in his comeback, I don't know if he is part of that core. Michelli is not on that level, but I think he is having a phenomenal rookie season. Is he?
I mean, he's been getting a lot of attention now. A lot of people are saying, "Hey, it's time to pay more attention to Matthias Michelli. In the idea that, like, maybe, I mean, like, it depending on who you are as a writer and how good you pay attention, could at least be a name to think about when you're considering the Calder Trophy.
Yeah. He has the same number of assists as Clayton Keller, like I said, which is just absolutely phenomenal because Keller is having a good season too. Like Michelli is an occasional healthy scratch, but he is generating offense in a way that you don't necessarily expect from a player who's not like a big name NHL prospect.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't say you mainly kind of saw this. I mean, I guess I did too because I was still in Tucson, but like, you know, had an inkling that Michelli would be good, right? But we didn't think it'd be happening this fast. But anytime we saw him, I saw him in Tucson, and then, like, the kind of glimpses that you got anytime he got called up for like a game or two, he looked great.
Yeah.
And I don't think, like, I'm not gonna go out and say like, hey, everyone, I saw this coming, or right? I'm the year who says, hey, we definitely saw Michelli being one of the top rookies in the league. We
No.
thought he would be good. We thought he'd be a name to watch out for, but not like, oh wow, let's keep watching for this dude and see how exactly good how he is.
Yeah. And well, the thing that really like surprises me and makes me excited about Michelli is the fact that he is generating offense like away from the Coyotes' top players. Like if you had told me Michelli was going to be with Schmaltz and Keller for 21 games this season, he has 2 goals and 15 assists, I'd be like, okay, Schmaltz and Keller, maybe they're like carrying him in some way. It's good that he's contributing to offense, but how much of that is his doing? But he is not playing with Schmaltz and Keller. He is playing with a variety of people. I'm not sure whose line he was on today because we're back to the nice what 11 forwards, 7 defensemen. But he is uh, yeah, he has been playing with Bukestad and Kraus, and that's been a good second punch by the Coyotes. But I contribute like a lot of that success to Michelli.
Oh, absolutely. And like, and I think a lot of the success goes to the Coyotes development staff too, right? If Michelli, Michelli could have easily been another player who kind of just doesn't pay attention too much in the American Hockey League and the Tucson Roadrunners, and just throws off and kind of throws away that advice and thinks they're too good for that league. There are players, I'm not going to name who, but there are players who
Yeah,
have thought that, and they look great in the American Hockey League. But when it comes time to, or even then, they look poor in the American Hockey League sometimes, and
yeah.
they still look slightly better in the NHL, but they just won't, because of the lack of development. They will never reach their full potential.
Yeah. You have to take every opportunity you can to improve if you want to be an NHL player. Honestly, if you want to be successful in any aspect of life, you need to take every opportunity you can to improve. So there's no reason hockey should be an exception to that.
Absolutely. But, I'm just personally glad to see that. But anything else that you want to touch on from the Arizona Coyotes versus Calgary Flames that you noticed? Any other players you want to give a shout out to as we get ready to move on to, what we have next coming up?
I don't know. Like, I'm not necessarily sure if anything really stood out to me. Uh, you know, I guess I kind of want to give it to Vamelka for keeping the team in there. Like there are stretches where Calgary was, you know, putting up a lot of rubber, and he came really big during those times, kept the team in. So we're getting 2 goals, but you're getting a goaltender who's keeping you in there. by only giving up 3.
Yeah, absolutely. That definitely makes sense. Especially too because like the kind of season that Vimoka started off with, or both goals tend to start it off with. It's just like, oof, this is not good.
Yeah.
And then Vimoka's improved. I still want to see more from Connor Ingram, but Vimoka's improved a lot, and I think he's kind of getting back to mid-season form. But yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah. Absolutely. Like goaltending has been keeping it competitive, and that's kind of like the best you could say about like this team, to be honest.
Absolutely. Once again, final score: Arizona Coyotes fall to the Calgary Flames. A score of 3-2. We're going to keep talking about what's coming up for the Arizona Coyotes week as they face the Edmonton Oilers on Wednesday. We're going to take a quick preview just to kind of get a early heads up on what's coming up. I do want to let everyone know, or just thank everyone once again for making Locked On Coyotes your first listen today. For your second listen, be sure to check out Locked On Sports today. From the games that matter most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports Today is available on this app, on YouTube, and wherever you get your podcasts. Let's now move on, though, to Arizona Coyotes versus Edmonton Oilers in the final game of the road trip. We'll have a full preview on tomorrow's episode, but let's talk about, uh, you know, a little bit of what to expect from this. It's the final game of the road trip. Will we see anything different from the Calgary game? What do you think?
So one of the things I talked about in the preview is the Coyotes are playing like the Western Canadian teams in like ascending order. So before the game, I'm not sure what it is now. The Vancouver Canucks were below the Calgary Flames. Calgary Flames were below the Edmonton Oilers. So you
Right.
should expect the Oilers to be the best team, but there's also a chance that they don't take the Coyotes as seriously. And I think the better the team you are, the more likely you are to be that less disciplined. And I don't know, something about me, like the Edmonton Oilers, I'm always like, are you guys really that disciplined? Are you going to give up an easy one for it? So I'm not sure, but on paper, it looks bad.
Yeah, the Oilers seem like a team that could um, take for granted or just, you know, uh, this game seems like the game seems like it could be a trick game.
Yeah.
A trap game, I should say, a trap game. But obviously, we're not taking a deeper look into it. But you, I feel like, and it kind of goes with what I was hoping in the game against Calgary. But I think they can come out with a strong, push to end the road trip, because usually of long road trips we rarely see road trips that this long. It's like, okay, we're tired and we're done. But I think there's like, to me, I'm gonna go and be the idea is like, hey, you know what, like, because it was this long, they know what's ahead of them. They're gonna put a final stretch out, like one massive push to end the road trip so they can come home on a good note.
I mean, there's definitely something to like getting motivated before a game. And there is a motivating factor to like the last game, like finishing the right way. And we've seen it like on the game level. Like we've seen the Coyotes have some great third periods, even in like losing efforts. We didn't see it tonight because that last extra goal, but we've seen them like kind of like come back and show that they're not going to go down without a fight. So can they do that for 60 minutes remains the question.
That's the big question, right? Like, I think it's the idea that we talked about this last year, and in like, we can draw similar, like, again, polar differences of last year's team versus this year's team, but the end result is the same. They are losing games. And the main cause of it is also similar in the sense that they're not playing full 60-minute games.
Yeah. And
So
penalties, I think, were also an issue last season.
the
I
only
would need,
difference then was they're taking penalties, and their special teams was atrocious. Now the special teams is actually pretty good, but the problem is they take so many penalties that it's gonna bite them in the butt.
I mean, they've been giving up a lot of power play goals and failing to score a lot of power play goals. Like overall this season, they're fine, but they're just in a down stretch, and I don't know if that's going to end anytime soon. Like being honest, maybe it's like a home cooking thing and like Friday, or maybe they go out strong. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. We'll absolutely see. Anything else that you want to touch on before we close things off?
Anything else? I kind of feel like just the load that you're putting on him, you kind of got to throw Ingram in, and this is throwing him to the Wolves kind of situation. So I do not envy Bear in deciding who to put in net for this game. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, I think the England throw to the Wolves thing. It could potentially work. It could potentially bite them in, but I think you do need to get them reps though, right?
Yep.
And it's just like, all right, you got to get whatever chances you can get. Luckily, you're still an NHL goalie. It's not like we're throwing Ivan Prospatov to the Wolves yet, because I mean previous Coyotes did do that, and it's just like, no, why are you doing that?
I mean, I think both Taka and Bear have given Prospatov some just phenomenal matchups where you're just like, why? Why are you doing this? Does he like owe you money or something?
Like, are you betting on something? What's
Let's not say that yeah.
That's fair. But I just all that's in mainly a joke, but
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's definitely just like, I don't know, like Prospatov has had some of the worst luck of a goalie who has gone up the ranks to a certain level very fast.
yeah, we'll see though. I think he's doing a pretty decent job right now in Tucson, so we'll see what moves from there, right?
I mean, he's still like by default the Coyotes goaltender of the future, I guess.
Yes, I believe so. Because Anson Thornton's really damn young, and I don't think we're going to see any of him anytime soon.
Yeah, yeah, and just like in general, Thornton is not playing at a level where I am projecting him to be a star goaltender. Like just way too young for a goaltender, and not in the right league.
Future backup for the Tucson Roadrunners.
With goalie prospects, yeah, kind of. That's probably closer to what I'm willing to commit to. I can never tell goalie prospects as little as I can tell prospects.
Makes sense. Anyways, though, that's gonna be it for today's episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. If you like what you heard, don't forget to leave a review, like, comment, subscribe if you get to already. We're available everywhere you get your podcast, including on YouTube. Don't forget to interact with us on social media. We're on Facebook, facebook.com/LockedOnCoyotes, on Instagram @LockedOnCoyotes, and on Twitter @LO_Coyotes. I'm personally @Robyn_Leonio. Carl Pavlik is @Carl Pavlik FFH. Interact with us, ask a question that you might have. We might answer it right back, or in a future episode of the Locked On Coyotes podcast. Thanks again, everyone, for listening to today's episode. Hope you guys are staying safe out there. Hope you guys are staying healthy. And don't forget to howl on.